My name is Evelyn Moore, and I am 74 years old. I raised 3 children in this house, fed them, protected them, stayed awake when they were sick. But the night my pain mattered most, they chose comfort. Let me tell you the moment I knew. I was lying on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket. My body felt heavy. My chest hurt. My hands were shaking. I tried to sit up, but my legs would not listen. From the hallway, I heard laughter. Soft at first, then louder. "She's always tired," my daughter said. "She'll be fine." My son laughed. "She just wants attention." I closed my eyes. Not because I was sleepy, because my heart broke. If you're watching this, please pause for 1 second. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe, like, and turn on the bell, because stories like this are not just stories. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, so I know I'm not alone. That night, the pain grew worse. My chest burned. My arm went numb. I tried to call out. "Help," I whispered. No one came. The TV volume went up. I heard my grandson say, "Can we order food? I'm hungry." And my daughter answered, "Yeah, just don't wake Grandma. Don't wake Grandma." As if I was already gone. That was the moment. The moment I understood something deep and painful. They did not want to be bothered by my suffering. Later, my son passed by the couch. He looked at me. Just once. "You okay, Mom?" he asked. I opened my mouth. Tried to speak. My voice came out weak. "I don't feel well." He sighed. "Not worried. Annoyed. You've been saying that all week." Then he walked away. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to plates clink. Food being shared. Comfort being enjoyed. My pain was inconvenient. At some point, the room spun. I don't know how long I drifted. But when I opened my eyes again, the house was quiet. Everyone asleep. I was alone. Still hurting. Still breathing. That's when fear turned into clarity. Because pain teaches you things comfort never will. I told myself quietly, if I survive this, I will never let them decide my worth again. The next morning, they acted normal. Smiles. Coffee brewing. Phones in hand. My daughter glanced at me. "Oh, you're up." "Yes," I said. My voice calm. Too calm. "You feeling better?" she asked. I looked straight at her and said, "I remember everything." Her smile froze. Just for a second. And in that second, I saw fear. Because they thought my suffering was silent. They were wrong. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The kitchen went quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that feels sharp. My daughter turned back to the sink. "Remember what?" she asked too fast. "I remember being in pain," I said. "I remember calling for help." My son sat at the table, scrolling his phone. Didn't look up. "Mom, you were half asleep." I walked slowly to the chair and sat down. My legs still felt weak. But my mind was clear. "I was awake," I said. "I heard everything." That made him look up. Just for a moment. My daughter laughed. A small laugh. Nervous. "You always hear things when you're tired." I nodded. "Yes," I said. But this time, I heard the truth. No one spoke. The coffee machine hummed loudly. My grandson walked in, yawning. "Why is everyone so quiet?" "Nothing," my daughter said quickly. "Grandma just didn't sleep well." I looked at him, at his young face, and felt a strange mix of love and sadness. I didn't want to embarrass anyone. I didn't want to fight. But I also wasn't going to disappear quietly. I'm going to the doctor today, I said. My son frowned. For what? I smiled. For myself. He shrugged. Okay, but don't let them scare you. You know how doctors are. That sentence stayed with me. Don't let them scare you. Because what scared them was the idea that I might finally be seen. Later that day, I took the bus alone, sat by the window, watched the world move like it always had, busy, loud, alive. At the clinic, the nurse took my blood pressure. Her face changed. Have you been feeling dizzy? She asked. Yes, I said. And tired. She looked at me gently. Any chest pain? I hesitated, then nodded. She didn't rush. She didn't sigh. She didn't tell me I was imagining things. She said, I'm glad you came. Those 4 words felt like a hand reaching out. The doctor spoke calmly, explained things slowly, used words I could understand. You should not have been left alone, he said. I swallowed hard. Your body has been asking for care, he continued. And it has been ignored. Ignored. That word landed heavy. As I left the clinic, I sat on a bench outside, held my bag tightly, let the truth settle. I wasn't weak. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't asking for too much. I was asking to be human. That evening, I came home quietly. No announcement. No drama. My daughter was on the couch. My son in the kitchen. Everything looked the same. But I was different. They didn't know it yet. But something had shifted. And as I lay in bed that night, I didn't cry. I planned. Because they chose their comfort over my suffering. But soon, they would have to face what that choice cost. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning, I woke up to whispers. Not dreams. Real voices. Low, careful, secret. I lay still in my bed, eyes open, breathing slow. I had learned something important the night before. People talk freely when they think you are weak. My daughter's voice came first. She can't live alone like this. My son answered, quieter. We'll figure it out, just not now. Figure it out. Those words felt heavy. I listened harder. She almost scared us yesterday, my daughter said. What if something happens again? My son sighed. That's why we need a plan. A plan. I had lived in this house for 42 years. Paid bills. Raised children. Survived storms. And now, they needed a plan about me. What kind of plan? My daughter asked. There was a pause. Long enough to make my heart beat faster. Something easier, my son said. For everyone. Easier. Not safer. Not kinder. Easier. I closed my eyes again. Not to sleep. To keep them from seeing the tears. Later at breakfast, they acted normal. Too normal. My daughter smiled at me. Did you sleep well, Mom? Yes, I said. And for the first time, it was true. We were thinking, she continued, pouring coffee. Maybe you need more help. I have help, I said calmly. They both paused. With what? My son asked. With listening to my body, I answered. They laughed lightly. The kind of laugh people use to hide worry. You don't need to be stubborn, my daughter said. We just want what's best. I stirred my tea slowly. What's best for who? I asked. Silence. Again. After breakfast, they left together. Same car. Same direction. No explanation. That's when I knew. This was bigger than worry. I spent the afternoon alone. Thinking. Remembering. I remembered when my daughter was small. How she cried when I left her at school. How she begged me not to go. Now she could leave me behind without blinking. By evening, they still weren't home. I sat in the living room, lights off, listening, waiting. When they finally returned, their energy felt different. Decided. Settled. My daughter sat across from me. My son stood behind her. Like they had practiced. "Mom," my daughter said softly. "We talked today." I nodded. "I know." She blinked. "How?" "I heard you," I replied. My son stepped forward. "We're worried," he said. "You can't keep living like this." "Like what?" I asked. "Alone," my daughter said. I looked around my home. The walls that knew my voice. The floors that remembered my footsteps. "I'm not alone," I said. "I'm just inconvenient." Her eyes filled. "That's not fair." I leaned forward. "Neither is planning my life without me." They exchanged looks. The same look as always. And then my daughter said the words that changed everything. "We already made arrangements." My chest tightened. "Arrangements for what?" I asked. She hesitated. "Too long. For you." Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. "For me," I repeated. My voice didn't shake, but my hands did. My daughter clasped her fingers together. "We didn't want to worry you," she said. "So we handled it." "Handled what?" I asked. My son cleared his throat. "There's a place," he said. "Nice, quiet, safe." A place. Not my place. Not my choice. "You mean a home?" I said. They didn't answer. They didn't need to. "It's temporary," my daughter added quickly. "Just until you get stronger." I let out a soft laugh. It surprised them. "You think strength comes from walls?" I asked. "Or from being heard?" My son shifted his weight. "Mom, don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder?" Again. "Did you visit it?" I asked. "Yes," my daughter said. "Twice." "Did you ask me to come?" I said. She looked down. That was answer enough. I stood up slowly. Every joint reminded me of my age. But my spine stayed straight. "You chose comfort," I said quietly. "Your comfort." "That's not true," she said quickly. "We thought about you." "No," I replied. "You thought around me." Silence filled the room. Thick. Unforgiving. My grandson peeked from the hallway. "Are we moving?" he asked. My heart broke just a little more. "No, baby," I said gently. "Not today." He nodded and disappeared. I turned back to my children. "You made plans without my voice," I said. "And now you want my permission." My son raised his hands. "We're trying to help." "Help does not feel like this," I answered. That night, I didn't eat much. My chest felt tight again. Not pain. Pressure. In my room, I sat on the bed and looked around. Photos. Letters. Memories they couldn't pack into a box. I realized something important then. They thought my body was the problem. But it was my silence they depended on. And I was done being quiet. Outside my door, I heard them whisper again. "She's not taking it well," my daughter said. My son sighed. "She'll calm down." "She always does." That sentence burned. I lay back on my pillow and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time, I didn't calm down. I decided. If they wanted to move my life, they would have to face the woman who built it first. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm. Not peace. Clarity. I moved slowly so no one would hear me. The house was still asleep. The kind of sleep people enjoy when they believe everything is under control. I sat at the small table in my room and picked up my phone. My hands trembled. Not from fear. From years of not using my voice. I scrolled through old numbers. Friends I hadn't called in a long time. People my children said were not necessary anymore. Then I stopped. At one name. Martha Lewis. We worked together years ago. She knew my habits. My strength. She knew when I was tired and when I was thinking clearly. I pressed call. "Hello," she answered. Her voice sounded surprised. "Evelyn." "Yes," I said. "It's me." "Oh my goodness," she laughed softly. "I thought you moved away." I swallowed. "No," I said. "I was just quiet." There was a pause. Then her voice changed. "You don't sound okay." Those words almost broke me. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Anything," she replied. "Do you remember the papers I signed last year?" I asked. "The ones my son brought me." Another pause. Longer. "Yes," she said carefully. "You asked me about them afterward." My heart started beating faster. "What did I ask you?" "You asked if they changed ownership of anything," she said. "And I told you I wasn't sure, because I never saw the originals." I closed my eyes. "I think my family is planning something," I said quietly. Martha didn't rush me. Didn't interrupt. "Evelyn," she said gently. "You need to see everything you've signed. Everything." "I don't have them," I said. "I thought so," she replied. The room felt smaller. "They never give people copies when they don't want questions," Martha continued. My chest tightened. "What should I do?" I asked. "You should ask for them," she said. "And you should not be alone when you do." I thanked her and hung up. Sat still for a long time. Down the hall, I heard movement. My daughter was awake. I tucked the phone into my pocket. Stood up. Looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look weak. I looked older. And wiser. At breakfast, I waited. Let them talk. Let them pretend. Finally, I spoke. "I want to see the papers," I said. My son froze. "What papers?" "The ones I signed," I replied. My daughter's smile slipped. "Why?" "Because I asked," I said. They exchanged looks again. The same look. The one that said this wasn't part of the plan. "We'll find them," my son said. "Later." "No," I said calmly. "Now." Silence filled the kitchen. And in that silence, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever they were hiding, it was big. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. My son stood up from the table. "I'll look for them," he said. Too quickly. "I'll help," my daughter added. They moved toward the hallway together. Like a team. I stayed seated. Watching. Listening. Minutes passed. Too many. Drawers opened. Closed. Footsteps back and forth. From the hallway, I heard my daughter whisper. "Where did you put them?" My son hissed back. "I thought you had them." My heart sank. But my face stayed calm. They came back into the kitchen empty-handed. My son forced a smile. "They're probably in storage," he said. "We'll find them later." "No," I replied softly. "You won't." My daughter frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, standing up. "You already looked where you thought they were." Silence. My son crossed his arms. "Mom, you're making this a bigger deal than it is." I met his eyes. "You brought papers to me when I was tired," I said. "You told me they were routine. You didn't give me copies." My daughter's voice shook. We were just organizing things. For who? I asked. Neither answered. I walked slowly toward the hallway, toward their rooms. They followed behind me. Nervous now, I stopped at the small cabinet near the guest room, the one no one used anymore. This, I said, tapping it gently, used to hold my important papers. My son swallowed. It's empty, he said. I know, I replied. I turned around. You moved them, I said calmly. And you didn't tell me. My daughter burst out. We were scared. Of what? I asked. Of losing control, she whispered. That was it. The truth. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. You didn't trust me with my own life, I said. So you decided for me. My son rubbed his face. We didn't think you'd understand. I nodded. That's the lie you told yourselves. I stood again. I want copies, I said. Today. My daughter shook her head. It's not that simple. That sentence scared me. What do you mean? I asked. She hesitated. My son stepped in. Some things are already in motion. The room felt cold. In motion how? I asked. They looked at each other. Too long. Then my daughter said quietly, We already told them you were coming. I felt the air leave my lungs. Told who? I whispered. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I understood then. They didn't just plan. They already acted. I walked back to my room and closed the door. Sat on the bed. Hands shaking now. But not from fear. From anger. From clarity. They thought my illness made me powerless. But illness had only slowed my body. Not my mind. And now I knew what I had to do next. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't cry. Not when I closed the door. Not when I sat on the bed. Not even when my hands shook. Crying wastes energy. I needed mine. I waited until the house went quiet again. No whispers. No footsteps. Just the hum of the fridge and the clock ticking in the hallway. Tick. 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 Like time reminding me I still had some left. I opened my purse and took out my phone. I didn't call my children. I didn't call to argue. I called to see. I searched the name my daughter had mentioned weeks ago. The one she said was just a nice place. The one she said was temporary. The screen loaded slowly. My heart beat fast. There it was. Photos. Bright walls. Neat beds. Smiling faces that looked too practiced. Assisted living community, the headline read. Community. Such a soft word. I clicked through the pictures. A woman about my age, sitting in a chair by a window. Her eyes empty. A man staring at a TV that wasn't even on. I whispered to myself, That's not help. That's hiding. I scrolled further. Then I saw it. The admission date. Next Monday. My breath caught. They weren't asking. They were scheduling. I sat very still, letting the truth sink deep. They had already decided my pain was inconvenient. My voice was slow. My body was work. So they chose comfort. Their comfort. Later that afternoon, my daughter knocked. Soft. Careful. Mom, she said. Can we talk? I opened the door. Looked straight at her. I know about the place, I said. Her face drained of color. You weren't supposed to see that yet. Yet. That word again. When were you going to tell me? I asked. She swallowed. When the time felt right. For who? I asked. She couldn't answer. I want to see it, I said. Her eyes widened. Why? So I can understand, I replied. And so you can look me in the eye while we're there. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay. That night, I lay awake again. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I was angry in a quiet way. The kind that sharpens your thinking. Because the next day, I would see exactly what they chose for me. And they would see something too. A woman they had underestimated. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. We went the next morning. My daughter drove. My son sat in the back seat. No one talked much. The car felt like it was carrying a secret. The building looked clean. Too clean. White walls. Big windows. A smiling woman at the front desk. Welcome, she said brightly. You must be Evelyn. I nodded. Yes, I said. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. They showed us around. A dining room with long tables. People eating quietly. No laughter. No noise. This is where residents spend most of their day, the woman said. Residents. Not people. I looked around. Some stared into space. Some didn't look up at all. My daughter leaned close to me. It's nice, right? I didn't answer. We walked past a row of doors. Identical. Numbered. Do the doors lock? I asked. The woman paused. For safety, she said. Safety. Another soft word. She opened one room. A small bed. A chair. A window that barely opened. This could be yours, she said. I stepped inside. The air felt heavy. Like nothing new ever happened there. My daughter stood at the door, smiling too hard. You'd have help here, she said. You wouldn't have to worry. I turned to her. And who would I be here? I asked. She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I said slowly. Who would know my favorite tea? She didn't answer. Who would remember my stories? I continued. Who would knock before entering? My son cleared his throat. Mom, this is just until you're stronger. I looked at him. You don't put people in boxes until they're stronger, I said. You do it when you want them out of the way. The woman at the desk shifted. This is just a tour, she said quickly. Yes, I replied. And that's enough. I walked back into the hallway. My daughter followed. Her voice was shaky now. You're overreacting. I stopped walking. Turned to face her. No, I said. I'm finally reacting. Her eyes filled with tears. We were scared, she whispered. I was scared too, I said gently. And I was alone. We left without signing anything. Without smiling. Without promises. In the car, my daughter cried quietly. My son stared out the window. I sat in the front seat. Silent. Thinking. They had seen me as fragile. But fragility doesn't mean surrender. That night, back at home, I packed a small bag. Not to move. To prepare. Because the next step would not be theirs. It would be mine. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Everyone was asleep. I could tell by the way the house breathed. No footsteps. No whispers. No doors opening just a little. That's when the best thinking happens. When the world stops pushing you. I sat on the edge of my bed and picked up my phone again. This time, I didn't scroll. I already knew who I was calling. Auntie Ruth. Not my real aunt. A woman who watched me grow up. A woman who never talked down to me. The phone rang twice. Then her voice came through. Evelyn, she said. You okay, baby? That was all it took. My throat tightened. But I kept my voice steady. I need help, I said. And I need you to listen. She didn't rush me. Didn't ask questions yet. Talk, she said. So I did. I told her about the pain. About the night on the couch. About the plans. The place. The papers I couldn't find. When I finished, there was silence. Not shock. Understanding. Baby, she said softly. They are trying to shrink you. That word stayed with me. Shrink. They think age makes you smaller, she continued. But it doesn't. I don't want to fight them, I said. You don't have to, she replied. You just need options. Options. Another word I hadn't heard in a while. She gave me 2 names. One was a woman. The other was a place. Go see them, she said. Quietly. Will it cost a lot? I asked. She laughed gently. Not as much as losing yourself. I thanked her. Sat there for a long moment after the call ended. For the first time in weeks, I felt something different. Not anger. Not fear. Hope. The next morning, I woke early. Before anyone else. Again. I made my bed. Folded my clothes neatly. Nothing dramatic. Just careful. At breakfast, my daughter chatted like normal. Talked about errands. Talked about weather. Avoided everything that mattered. I'm stepping out today, I said casually. My son looked up. Where? An appointment, I replied. With who? My daughter asked. With myself, I said. They laughed. I didn't. I left the house without asking. Without explaining. As the door closed behind me, my heart beat fast. But not from fear. From motion. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was moving. And that scared them more than anything else. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The place Auntie Ruth sent me didn't look important. No tall gate. No shiny sign. Just a small building, tucked behind a row of old trees. I almost turned back. That's what fear does. It makes small things feel dangerous. But I remembered her voice. Losing yourself costs more. Inside, the air smelled like paper and lemon polish. A woman at the desk looked up. Gray streaks in her hair. Sharp eyes. Kind mouth. Can I help you? She asked. I was told to come here, I said. My name is Evelyn. She smiled. She said. Come in. Her office was quiet. No rush. No judgment. She asked me to sit. Then she waited. That was the hardest part. Being allowed to speak without interruption. I told her everything. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just truth. When I finished, she leaned back. Do you know what this is? She asked. I shook my head. It's control, she said. And it's yours. She explained things slowly. My name. My rights. The papers my family thought were gone. They didn't disappear, she said. They were moved. By who? I asked. Someone who thought you wouldn't notice, she replied. My hands trembled. Not from fear. From clarity. They planned to act while you were weak, she continued. That's common. I swallowed. They said it was for my own good. She smiled sadly. They always do. Then she asked a question that changed everything. Do you want to disappear quietly? Or do you want to be seen again? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the couch. The whispers. The laughs. I want to be seen, I said. She nodded once. Then we start carefully. She slid a folder across the desk. My name was on it. Big. Clear. This stays with you, she said. I walked out of that building taller. Not louder. Stronger. When I got home, the house felt different. Like it knew. My daughter looked up. You were gone long. I needed time, I said. My son glanced at me. Narrowed his eyes. Everything okay? He asked. I smiled. For now, I replied. That night, I slept without the light on. For the first time in weeks. Because I knew something they didn't. The door they thought was closed had just opened. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The first thing they noticed was my silence. I stopped explaining myself. No more long answers. No more apologies. Just calm. My daughter frowned one morning. You okay, Mom? She asked. I'm fine, I said. She didn't like that. Before, I filled the air. Now I let it breathe. They noticed other things too. I began locking my door. I carried my purse everywhere. I started writing again. My son caught me once. What are you writing? He asked. Notes, I replied. For what? He pressed. For myself, I said. That's when the watching started. Whispers stopped when I entered rooms. Phones turned face down. Voices lowered. They thought I was weak. But weak people don't change patterns. One afternoon, I heard my daughter speaking on the phone. She's acting strange, she whispered. No, not sick, just different. I stood still. Let the words land. That night, my son sat beside me. Too close. You know we love you, he said. I smiled. I know, I replied. You trust us, right? That was the mistake. Trust doesn't need to be asked for. I trust myself, I said softly. His face hardened. Just for a second. Later, I found my drawer open. My papers shifted. Not gone. Just checked. They were searching. I closed the drawer gently. Locked it. And smiled. Because when people start watching you, it means they're afraid of what you know. And fear makes people rush. That night, I heard my daughter whisper, we need to act soon. I lay still. Eyes closed. Heart steady. They thought I was asleep. They were wrong. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't move. Not even when the floor creaked. Not even when my door opened a little. I stayed still, breathing slow just like sleep. My daughter whispered first. Is she out? My son answered, low and tense. She's old, she sleeps deep. That word. Old. They said it like a weakness. My daughter sighed. I can't do this anymore, taking care of her, watching her, waiting. Waiting. For what? My son said. We just need to speed things up. My heart thumped once. Hard. But I didn't move. She's got that notebook, my daughter said. I don't know what's in it. My son scoffed. She can't do anything. Who would believe her? I felt something crack inside me. Not pain. Clarity. She's always been dramatic, my daughter added. Remember when she cried over nothing? Nothing. That's what my life sounded like to them. My son leaned against the wall. We can talk to the doctor again, he said. Say she's confused, forgetful. My stomach turned cold. She already signed most things, my daughter whispered. Just a little more pressure. Pressure. That's what love sounded like now. I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump up and shout. But I didn't. Because sleep was my shield. And silence was my weapon. My daughter hesitated. What if she knows? My son laughed. She barely knows what day it is. I knew exactly what day it was. The day I stopped being invisible. They left. Soft footsteps. Quiet lies. I waited. Counted to 100. Then I sat up. My hands were shaking. But my mind was sharp. Sharper than it had been in years. I reached for my notebook. Opened to a fresh page. And wrote one sentence. They think I am weak. Then another. They are wrong. I heard my own voice in my head. Steady, calm. Alive. That night, I didn't sleep again. I planned. Because when people show you who they are, you don't argue. You prepare. And I was done waiting. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Morning came like nothing had happened. Birds outside, plates clinking, normal voices. That's how danger hides. My daughter smiled at me over breakfast. Did you sleep well, Mom? I nodded. Yes, dear. She relaxed. That smile told me something important. They thought I was still asleep inside. My son glanced at the pills beside my plate. You didn't forget these, right? I picked one up, looked at it, then swallowed nothing. I let it rest under my tongue until he looked away. Old age teaches you tricks. After they left, the house went quiet. Too quiet. I locked my bedroom door, sat on the edge of the bed, and breathed. I wasn't scared anymore. I was focused. I opened my notebook again. Page after page filled with dates, words, small moments. Things I once wrote to stay sane. Things I now realized were proof. Who moved money? Who signed papers? Who spoke for me when I didn't ask? I whispered to myself. They think I'm done. Then I smiled. I called the one person they never expected. My old friend Ruth. She answered on the second ring. Are you okay? She asked. I am now, I said. But I need help. There was no hesitation. Tell me everything. So I did. Slowly, carefully. Ruth listened. Then she said something that made my chest feel light. You're not crazy, and you're not alone. Those words healed something deep. That afternoon, I walked outside alone for the first time in weeks. No help, no arms holding me up. The sun felt different. Like it was watching. I went to the mailbox. Inside was an envelope I didn't recognize. My hands froze. Because the name on the front wasn't mine. And it shouldn't have been there at all. I opened it. Read one line. And my heart dropped. They had already started without me. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I sat at the kitchen table with that envelope in my hands for a long time. It felt heavier than paper should, like it carried voices inside. I read it again. Slow. Careful. It was a notice. Formal words. Big words meant to confuse old people. My name was there, but the signature wasn't mine. My hands began to shake. Not from fear. From anger. They already signed it, I whispered. This wasn't talk anymore. This was action. I looked around the kitchen. The same table where I fed them. The same floor where they took their first steps. And now this. I folded the paper and placed it in my bag. Then I did something that surprised even me. I laughed. Soft, low. You moved too fast, I said out loud. That's where you messed up. I cleaned the house like normal. Swept. Washed plates. Hummed an old song. When my son came home, he watched me closely. You look better today, he said. I slept well, I replied. A lie. But a useful one. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. I listened. Doors closed. Lights off. Silence. Then I went to the cabinet where they kept important papers. The one they thought I couldn't remember. Inside were folders. Neat. Labeled. I opened each one slowly. My heart beat loud in my ears. There it was. Copies. Dates. My name everywhere. I took photos. One by one. Hands steady. Breathing calm. This wasn't stealing. This was taking back. I returned everything exactly as I found it. Closed the cabinet. Went to bed. But I didn't sleep. Because now I knew the truth. They weren't waiting for me to die. They were rushing it. And tomorrow, I wouldn't be quiet anymore. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Morning came like nothing had changed. Birds outside. Kettle boiling. Footsteps in the hallway. But everything had changed. I sat at the table, sipping tea, watching them move around me like I was furniture. No eye contact. No questions. No guilt. "Ma, don't forget your pills," my daughter said, sliding the bottle toward me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I won't," I replied softly. I didn't touch the bottle. Inside my bag, my phone felt warm. Full of pictures. Proof. After breakfast, they all left one by one. Doors slammed. Cars drove off. I was alone. That was exactly what I needed. I locked the door, sat down, and made my first call. "Hello," I said calmly. "I need to understand some documents with my name on them." A pause. Then, "Of course, ma'am, when can you come in?" "Today." I didn't dress fancy. Didn't rush. Didn't panic. I walked out of that house slowly, like someone who still belonged to herself. At the office, the young woman helping me frowned as she read. Then frowned harder. "Did you sign this?" she asked. "No," I said. Clear, firm. Her chair scraped back. "I need my supervisor." My heart beat fast, but my voice stayed steady. Something was finally moving, and they had no idea. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The supervisor came in quietly. Middle-aged man. Neat shirt. Kind eyes that turned sharp as he read. He didn't sit right away. He stood there, papers in his hands, flipping them slowly. "These documents," he said at last, "are serious." I nodded. "So is what they did to me." He looked up. Really looked. Not like my family did. "Do you live alone?" he asked. "No," I said. "I live with people who wanted me gone." The room went quiet. Even the printer stopped humming. He pulled another file. Then another. Dates. Signatures. My name, written wrong in places only I would notice. "These changes were made over time," he said carefully. "Someone planned this." My hands shook under the table. I held them together. "They thought I wouldn't notice," I whispered. "They thought I was already finished." He closed the file. "I'm going to ask you something, and I need the truth." "I've only told the truth today," I said. "Did anyone pressure you? Threaten you? Tell you what would happen if you spoke?" I saw my grandson smirk. My daughter's sigh. My son-in-law's silence. "Yes," I said. That was when his tone changed. "Then we need to protect you." Protect. No one had used that word for me in years. He made copies. Marked pages. Wrote notes in red ink. "You'll need somewhere safe tonight," he said. "And you should not confront them. Not yet." I smiled sadly. I wasn't planning to. I stepped outside with a folder thicker than my Bible. The sun felt brighter. Almost too bright. As I waited for the bus, my phone buzzed. A message. From my daughter. "Where are you? We need to talk." I stared at the screen, then typed back. "Later." The bus doors opened. I stepped inside. And for the first time, I knew something they didn't. They had already lost. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not go back home that night. Not because I was scared, but because I was done being easy to reach. The bus dropped me 2 streets away from a small place I had passed 100 times and never noticed. A modest guest house. 1 floor, clean windows, soft yellow light. I paid in cash. The woman at the desk smiled at me like I mattered. "Take your time," she said. "No rush." I almost cried right there. Inside the room, I sat on the edge of the bed and let the quiet settle. No voices talking over me. No laughter behind my back. No plans being made about my life like I was already gone. Just me. Breathing. Still here. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Then again. "Daughter, where are you?" "Grandson, why are you ignoring us?" "Son-in-law, this isn't funny." "Funny." I turned the phone face down. Across town, I knew what was happening. I could picture it too well. They would have come home expecting me in the chair by the window. They would have called out my name. Once. Twice. No answer. They would have checked the kitchen. My mug still in the sink. My scarf missing. My room empty. That was when the worry would start. Not about me. About themselves. Where did she go? What did she take? Did she tell anyone? That night, they searched through drawers that no longer belonged to them. They opened folders they never thought I'd touched. They checked their phones, their emails, their locks, and found nothing. Because I had taken only one thing. The truth. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan. Slow. Steady. Like my heart. For years, they believed I would stay quiet. That I would forgive without question. That I would fade without a sound. They were wrong. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from my daughter. Short. Sharp. "What did you do?" I smiled. Not because I had hurt her, but because I had finally chosen myself. I didn't reply. I turned off the light. Outside, the city kept moving. And somewhere across town, they sat awake for the first time, wondering what I knew. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Morning came softly for me. No shouting. No doors slamming. No whispers stopping when I entered the room. Just light slipping through the thin curtains and the sound of a city waking up without me in it. I sat up slowly and placed my feet on the floor. Still here. Still breathing. Still not broken. Across town, they had not slept. I knew that without being told. Because people who live by control panic when control disappears. My phone was still off when I turned it on. The screen lit up like fireworks. Missed calls. Messages. Voicemails stacked on top of each other. "Daughter, please call me." "Son-in-law, we need to talk." "Grandson, Grandma, this isn't funny anymore." Funny. I leaned back against the pillow and closed my eyes. They never called when I cried quietly in my room. They never rushed in when I sat alone during holidays. They never asked if I was okay when they spoke about me like I wasn't there. Now they needed answers. I took a shower and dressed carefully. A simple dress. Flat shoes. My hair neat. Not for them. For me. Downstairs, the woman at the desk poured me tea. "You look lighter today," she said. I smiled. I feel lighter. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. When I stepped outside, my phone rang again. This time I answered. "Mom," my daughter said, breath shaky. "Where are you?" I paused, not to punish her, but to choose my words. "I'm safe," I said calmly. "That's all you need to know right now." Her voice changed. "Did you tell anyone? Did you go to the bank? Did you?" I cut her off gently. "You're asking the wrong questions." Silence. "What do you mean?" she whispered. I looked at the street ahead of me. People walking freely, living their lives. "You should be asking why I left," I said. She didn't answer. Behind her, I could hear movement. Drawers opening. Papers shifting. Someone whispering, "Check the folder again." Fear had entered the house, and it was not leaving easily. "I didn't take anything that wasn't mine," I continued. But I finally stopped giving away what was. Her breath caught. "Mom, we can fix this." I smiled again. Not because I believed her, but because she finally sounded unsure. "No," I said softly. "You can't fix what you never respected." I ended the call. By afternoon, they were calling everyone. Relatives, neighbors, old church friends. "Have you heard from her? Did she say anything? Do you know where she went?" And for the first time, the story wasn't theirs to tell. That evening, I sat alone on a bench in a small park. Children laughed nearby. Life kept moving. I reached into my bag and touched the envelope inside. Still there. Unopened. Waiting. Tomorrow, I would decide what to do with it. Tomorrow, the truth would move. But tonight I rested. Because the people who chose their comfort over my suffering were finally learning how heavy silence can be. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I woke up before the sun. Not because I was worried, but because my heart felt steady for the first time in years. I sat at the small desk in my room and placed the envelope in front of me. The one they never knew about. The one I had been filling slowly, quietly, while they were busy enjoying my silence. Inside were copies of things I was never meant to see. Messages sent when they thought I couldn't read. Plans made when they thought I couldn't hear. Decisions about my money, my home, my care made without me. "I guess she won't notice." That line appeared more than once. I noticed. I always noticed. I just stopped begging them to care. I didn't go back to that house. Not that day. Not ever. Instead, I went somewhere small and peaceful. A place where no one knew my name. Where I could sit by a window and drink tea without feeling like a burden. My phone buzzed again. I looked at it. Then I turned it face down. Because this ending was not about revenge. It was about release. Later that afternoon, I made 3 quiet moves. No shouting. No courtroom. No drama. Just truth placed where it could no longer be ignored. By evening, the calls stopped. Not because they didn't care, but because they finally understood. I stood by the window as the sky turned gold. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled without forcing it. They chose their comfort over my suffering. So I chose my peace over their approval. And that was the moment I truly came back to life.